Okay, guys, here we go. We're getting ready. Lights, action. You ready? Okay, well, welcome everybody to the Monday, June 6th, 2016 City Council regular meeting. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order, and we will have a prayer by Reverend Sharon Bailey from First Congregational United Church of Christ. Is she here? I'm sorry, Stephen. I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses on, Steve, so I apologize for that.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes, let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for this day and all the opportunities that it presents. And we pray that we make the most of the opportunities that come our way. This evening, we are especially mindful of our community and the many opportunities we have to make it a better place for everyone. Help us to do what is right in your sight and improve the community in which we live. In particular, guide the body here assembled and grant it the wisdom and courage to make good and useful decisions for the welfare of all. Amen.
Thanks, Steve. I almost had to call up the chamber here, Megan, and just make sure that you were here or not, because if you weren't, she'd cover. Yeah, we had a guy.
If I could have a political moment, our church would like to see First Avenue be...
There you go. All right, man. I like it. Yeah. Okay, we will. Trust me, it's there. Thanks, Steve. All right. Okay, Shell, will you do a roll call for us?
Absolutely. Albertson. Here. Bueller. Here. Danforth. Here. Manti. Here. Riefenberger. Here. Roby.
Here.
Solom.
Here.
Thorson.
Here.
Tupper.
Here.
Vilhauer.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Shelley. Okay, number one is approval of the consent agenda. I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Wow, there's a ton of them there. I'm just going to pick a couple. Okay, I got Beth and Don here. Any questions, any changes we need to make on that? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number two, approval of the agenda. I'll look for a motion and a second. I got a motion by Randy, second by Bruce. Any changes, any questions?
Is it a competition?
Which one, Shell? Oh, the strong, I'm sorry, I do need to add this, guys. I need to add the Strong Towns Engagement Agreement. And we'll put that one as number, 14C or something to that effect. And we'll go Strong Town.
I will change my motion to make the change, to accept the agenda with the change. Strong Towns under 14C, did you say?
Yes.
And I will re-second. that
Okay,
motion.
so I have a motion by Randy, a second by Bruce on that. Any other questions, any other changes? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number three, application for a new retail on-sale malt beverage and retail on-off-sale wine license for Byron Shen, a.k.a. Rachel, doing business as Downtown Sushi at 18 North Broadway. At this time, I will open the public hearing. If there's anyone who wants to speak in favor of or against this is your opportunity. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Glenn. Any questions on this? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You're good to go. All right. In fact, folks, that's where her new sushi restaurant will be, is in the old Good to Go building on 18 North Broadway. Wonderful. Yeah, we're excited for you, Rachel. All right, thanks. Number 4, application for a transfer of ownership and location of a retail on-off sale malt beverage license from Shiv Shakti LLC doing business as Days Inn at 2900 9th Avenue Southeast to Harry's Haircuts and Hot Towels LLC, which is inactive at 1522 Parkview Drive. At this time, I will open the public hearing. If there's anyone who wants to speak in favor of or against this, it's your opportunity. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Dan, second by Bruce. Any questions?
I do have one. What's the, I guess I'm kind of confused as to why we're doing a transfer just to put one inactive. I know that's legal and they can do it, but.
Right. This is Mike's deal, so we'll let him explain it.
Okay.
Well, I was dealing on a malt beverage video lottery license, and I was dealing on two, and just happened to get them both. So
Okay.
one of them will show up at the next meeting. I have it sold already. So, yep.
Any other questions for Mike? Any other questions at all? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, application for transfer of ownership and location of a retail on-off sale malt beverage license from Golf on Kemp Incorporated, doing business as Golf on Kemp, which is inactive, at 1625 North Ridge Drive, Unit 214, to Harry's Haircuts and Hot Towels LLC, DBA Harry's Haircuts and Hot Towels at 16 West Kemp. At this time, I will open the public hearing if there's anyone who wants to speak in favor of or against this. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Mike, second by Beth. Any questions for this one? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, thanks, Mike. Number 6, application for a special retail wine license to the Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce for the period of 5 p.m. Thursday, June the 9th of 2016 until 8:30 p.m. Thursday, June 9th, 2016. This time I will open the public hearing. If there's anyone who wants to speak in favor of or against this, it's your opportunity. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Glenn, second by Beth. Any questions you guys might have?
Megan, what's the event? Because we got the next one too, right?
This is a lot of moving parts for me. This one is the wine walk for this
Oh, okay.
Thursday. I would tell you that maybe if you've been following Aberdeen news at all, they canceled a wine tasting event that they had up there. There were some questions with the Department of Revenue, a big event they had booked later on in the month. As a fundraiser, how our event differs, I spent a lot of time on the phone today with Department of Revenue, and we have Wade has been working diligently to make sure this is taken care of. We actually are purchasing the wine from the distributor, and they were getting a donation of the wine and turning around and making the profit off of that. So that's where the Department of Revenue gets involved. So we are completely free and clear and in check with both the city and the Department of Revenue.
I have to kind of chuckle because I've already bought tickets to this and you're just asking permission to do it.
For the record, this was supposed to be on the agenda a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, no, we are on the straight and narrow, Mike. I promise. Yeah, right. Yes, we're all law-abiding citizens now.
You guys, any other questions? This is a tough group tonight,
It
Megan, I'm
is.
telling you.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard scam and I've heard Ponzi. I don't know what I'm
I
hearing.
don't know.
All right. Well, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 7, application for a special retail malt beverage retailer's license and special retail wine license to the Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce for the period of 4 p.m. Friday, July 15th of 2016 until 10 p.m. Saturday, July the 16th, 2016. At this time, I will open the public hearing if there's anyone who wants to speak in favor of or against this. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Mike, second by Dan. Any questions on this one? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Very nice. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Number 8, proposed lease agreement with Good Enterprises LLC for city-owned land around the Casino Speedway. And this is, of course, from the airport. If you want to come on up, Todd, I will open up the public hearing. If there's anyone who wants to speak in favor of or against this, your opportunity. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. I will look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by, was it John? John, a second by Mike. Any questions that you have for Todd here, or he can kind of explain what's going on in the first place, if you would?
The racetrack was sold is the main reason we're just revamping this lease for Mr. Good.
So this does replace an existing lease, Todd?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any changes? Started reading through it, and I would have had to go out and get the other ones, so I thought I'd rather ask you. Is there any significant changes?
I'll defer my questions to the attorney.
No, basically, originally it was, what is it, Benson to Brink, and then Brink to Good? And so we were trying to clean it up and just start fresh with a new lease. The pay structure for them, for this first 10-year term, keeps his rent the same for the first 2 years, because had he gotten an assignment, that's how it would have run. And then the remaining 8 years of the first term, the rent will go up. And the rent structure is still the same. So it was basically just starting fresh.
So we're resetting the 10-year term though, but
No.
It's still a 10-year term. It's just his increase in rent doesn't happen. It happens 2 years into his first term rather than waiting 10 years.
Because if it would have just transferred from Brink to Good, it would have been up in 2 years.
right.
So we left it that way. It's going to go up in 2 years. It may go up in 2 years, I should say.
At the end of the first.
And then we took out some things that were in the initial lease, because at that time they were going to construct things, and the fence hadn't been built yet. I mean, because it was old. It was way back with the initial lease. So
Wasn't
we
the
took that
original
language
lease
out.
50 years or something like that?
Yeah, and we can't do that
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. So that was another reason to clean it up. I mean,
Right.
that's,
Right.
yep. And Mayor, I will recuse myself from this vote when it comes time for vote for conflict of interest, so.
Okay, any other questions for Todd? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Todd. Number 9, first reading of ordinance number 1608, amending section 3.0109, regulating the keeping of certain animals within and for the city of Watertown. This is a first reading only. I would like to, Shane or Attorney Lisa, if you want to maybe mention what happened, what the changes are, or Beth, if you wanted to address it, somebody needs to kind of look at this and give us just a little update on why this came about and what's going on.
I would defer to Beth, because she's participated with the Animal Control Board. Although I do realize that, I believe it was last summer, there was an issue with a raccoon.
Yeah. And Dr. Reeb, the president of the Animal Control Board, is here as well. Are you still here, Mark? Yeah. Okay, I couldn't see you behind the monitor. Yes, this was one of the things where we had a situation where we had some ambiguity in the language in terms of what animal could be kept and what animal could be kept via by a special permit of the Animal Control Board. And in looking at the actual practice, the Animal Control Board had never in the history that we could find issued a permit for any of these exotic animals. And as we continued to do the research and looked at other cities' ordinances, some of them were laboriously tedious to go through, but we found that we were consistent with a lot of the other communities. The other thing was, as we looked at some of these animals and researched them, Dan Miller is also on our board, and he has a lot of knowledge of animals. Another animal owner and citizen, Chrisma, she also has a lot of knowledge of animal behavior. We found that the animals that we are looking at excluding are all potentially extremely dangerous to humans. And rather than go through a long laundry list of individual animals, some of which we found were extinct on some of the community's lists, It was a true story. And we had to look up what an aardwolf was. But anyway, this reflects, I believe, a good, workable ordinance that the animal control officer also agreed was something that he could enforce. And it also reflects a statement in regards to non-human primates, which the state of South Dakota is encouraging all the communities to include in their ordinances. So, Mark, is there anything I missed? Okay. So that's the kind of the history and where we got to where we are now.
Beth, I have a question for you after reading this thing. It does say that the animal would be removed. Is there an intent for any type of ramifications for somebody that violates this ordinance? Or are they just gonna take away the animal?
I think it depends on, I think at this point, the way the ordinance reads to me is that they would impound the animal and remove it.
So this is only gonna happen if somebody finds out about it.
Right.
There's no consequence for anybody that violates this ordinance.
Well, they lose
Other
their
than losing their pet.
their critter, yeah. I think that there's probably some allowance in ordinance that we don't have, and Lisa, maybe you can help me, or Tim or somebody. There's probably we saw some cross ordinances in some of the other health rules in some of those areas where there was allowance for fining and potential consequence for creating a dangerous situation, if you want to call it that.
Tim, can you come up here and kind of fill us in if there's a charge or anything, any kind of a?
I don't think there's any specific charge. It's not a petty offense or a class 2 misdemeanor, as most ordinances would be. It just gives us authority to seize the animal. That would be a discussion for the council if you want to add a level fine to it.
You know, I think if you got dangerous animals, that's one of the objectives. My assumption is of this ordinance, then I think we want to discourage folks from doing that.
Absolutely agree.
And in my opinion, there ought to be some sort of ramifications for somebody that does that. So they know up front that if they do this, they're going to get a ticket, a fine, whatever the case may be.
Typically, a dog at large, for instance, that's a $114 fine. So if you're looking for a ballpark, that would be a good starting point.
I've got a couple questions, and I appreciate the conciseness and the brevity of this compared to some of the other cities, but I've got a question. I mean, how do we necessarily define dangerous? I mean, who makes that determination? I mean, for example, a pit bull, for example, is a dog breed. I mean, is that inherently a dangerous animal, or who makes that determination?
When it comes to a vicious dog, that would be it would be deemed vicious by law enforcement, and then that would set off a system of hearings that they could appeal it to the Animal Control Board, and then we would present both sides, and the Animal Control Board would either say yes, the dog's vicious, or no, and then set some parameters. As far as specific animals, that's just based on research, I'm assuming.
Maybe you answered my second question. So is there recourse to an animal owner that has had their pet placed under suspicion as being dangerous?
Yes. So there's putting a muzzle on, a shorter 6-foot leash, a higher fence. All those are set forth by the Animal Control Board up to euthanization.
And they also have to come in front of the board.
That's correct.
Yes.
And those only involve domestic pets, such as, and primarily dogs is what we're looking at. We haven't had a lot of vicious cat attacks lately, but that would be with dogs. The purpose of this, as we were doing our research, for example, a skunk is the most dangerous, or a raccoon, I should say, is one of the most dangerous animals in terms of relations to rabies, in the sense that they can carry the active rabies virus for, Mark, is it over a year or up to a year? They can carry it for a time. Yeah, they can carry it for a long period of time without showing any symptoms, but can still be able to transmit it. And so those were the kind of things we looked at when we chose these. And skunks right now, according to Chris, if they come into town, we just automatically assume they're rabid if they come in during the day and remove them. And so the idea is exotics and venomous, things that would cause harm to humans, that they might not even know where they're coming from, that kind of thing. So this addresses specifically non-dogs, I should say non-dogs and cats. If you look at it, it says regulation on the keeping of certain animals, and we struck other than dogs. That's the way it always was written before.
But then by default, we're including dogs in this ordinance.
No, other than, no, we're not.
Other than dogs.
Yeah. Excluding it, right in there it says. So, we're,
I think on the very top, it says regulations of the keeping of certain animals other than dogs. Dogs are actually in another entire ordinance itself.
right.
And we're not really working on that particular ordinance.
No, this is specific, oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
Steve.
this is a good timing too, because we have all these little, little raccoons running around and little skunks around, and they look like real friendly pets, and we don't really want those. So it's good timing. I think this is real good.
It
The
is.
fine, just so you know, is $200.
Oh,
It is 200.
Yeah,
Okay.
the fine is $200.
Beth,
I
I
thought
got,
there was something relative to it. Did you hear that, Bruce? Are you guys finished? Okay, $200.
We have been corrected.
Beth, I got a question, or Mark or whomever here, but if okay, so I know I can't have a skunk or a fox or a raccoon or an exotic animal as far as a primate. But when we went through this a year ago or whatever it was, then there a lot of these questions get thrown out. Can I have a ferret?
Yes.
Can I have a boa constrictor that's 15 feet long? I mean, these things happen where people do
Right.
have these. Matter of fact,
Well-
and I won't mention any names, but somebody's kid had one of these things and it got out, and it was a
Yeah.
great big snake.
Right. No.
It may not be venomous, but it's going to squeeze the heck out of you.
We looked at those kinds of things, and boas and boa constrictors and ferrets and some of those others are all considered to be, I don't want to say typical, but it's not acceptable. It's not uncommon for those to be, and the exposure to the public by those animals is very minimal. I mean, you're not likely to have your boa constrictor out for a walk or, things like that. Some do, I suppose, but it's not venomous, so you can't just walk by it and have anybody, have it bite you on the shoulder. I might be deflating into Mark's territory here, but I want to try the best I can.
We said the max fine is 200, but the judges have set it at 110, correct? That's what we show.
Correct, and then there's also jail time. Believe it or not, they have
Yeah,
it in
it's
there.
up to-
So
Up to 30 days in jail, so
Yep.
it's a class 2 misdemeanor.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I want to thank Beth and whoever else had their hand in it. This does take away the ambiguousness of the ordinance, and it's going to make our job much easier. So, thanks, Beth.
Thanks, Mark.
There was a lot of work. Like I said, we took the opportunity to read for you guys all those tedious, long ordinances from some of the other cities, and just because we needed to do it, and this is what we came up with.
Sounds good. Okay, we're going to move on. Number 10, first reading of ordinance number 1611, amending the section 6.0501 of the revised ordinance of the City of Watertown regarding veterans' burial plots within Mount Hope Cemetery. And Shane, do you want to explain to us what's going on?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. City staff had been informed over the winter that we were running out of burial plots for veterans. And so we started to research the area in the cemetery that contains veterans. And if Ray would put my screen up on the board. Okay, so the area in blue has been the ongoing area for the veterans plots. And essentially, last fall, we were down to less than 6, I believe. And so it became evident that we needed to consider the new area. The immediate new area is this box in green. That will provide 72 additional burial plots for veterans. And then we wanted to have a plan going forward beyond this revision, and that is the box in red is an area that we hope to hold aside for future expansions to the veteran burial plots. So with that, we can go back to the ordinance and review that. Basically, we struck out the previous description of land defining the veterans plots in the cemetery and replaced it with the language immediate below it, and it's very tedious to read a description of this nature, so I'll just leave it at that. And we'll-
Shane, can I ask a question? Why is this an ordinance issue and not a cemetery management issue?
To be honest with you, I don't have the history of that. It's an ordinance, and when we change burial plots, we need to change the ordinance. So we're just going through the motions. to
Is
make
this
sure that-
typical in towns? Or is this, we've got something and it
There's been-
seems odd to me that it's not
Yeah.
just a cemetery management issue and you allocate the space you want towards what you want?
I think this is
this
only
case?
the second or third amendment since World War I, so. Anyway, it's a part of our ordinance, and we adapted the language accordingly.
Whatever the history there, as a veteran, I do appreciate or applaud the consideration of this, and hope we can move forward on in the future.
Okay, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I do want to also just, this isn't really on the agenda, but I wanted to throw this out. It kind of flows right in with the cemeteries. A monument such as this one that you see right now is not legal in our cemetery. The way if you read the ordinance the way it reads, this is called a bench monument, and a bench monument is not actually legal in our cemetery. This is up at is it St. Mary's over here by the highway, St. Mary's Cemetery. This one is up there. There's numerous of them. We don't need to make a ordinance change or anything. I think we just need everybody to understand that we're going to start allowing this. We do not consider this a bench per se. A bench is something that you sit down and rest your back is what we would consider. People won't sit on this. So just so you know, we're going to start allowing something like this up there also. Fair
Steve,
enough?
why was it illegal? Is there a safety
Well,
hazard when you're mowing?
No. What they did was they do not want benches out there in front of the grave site, and they considered this, since it had a flat tabletop, a bench. Yeah.
It was basically a play on terms. Your ordinance says that benches aren't allowed, but the way that the monument place classifies this monument is a bench monument.
Right.
So
I don't see any issue on it why we wouldn't allow that. I think it looks great. And that, again, hasn't been changed since, what did you say, Lisa, 1965 on that one?
correct.
Yeah. Lots has changed since then. Okay? Thanks, Ray.
Didn't we just have a change that we've allowed some other type of materials to be
We
used?
did. Yes. Yep. And that's going well. I would agree with Mike. I think that's kind of something that can be changed right at the cemetery rather than going through a council level. But number 11, consideration of application for a sidewalk cafe for the Watertown Brewing Company. I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion on this. Motion by Mike, second by Beth. This here is, just to give you a little update, this is at the Brewing Company. They're looking at having sidewalk cafe 4 to 11 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. And I see we have representation here tonight. So if there's any questions that you want to ask, now is your opportunity. Anybody have any questions on this?
I
If
guess
you-
I do. Maybe I haven't read this well enough, but my question is...
Christine, if you want to get up to the podium then.
Will there be some sort of fencing that you're planning on, like some portable fencing that you'd put?
stanchions to rope it off.
Okay, and then there'd be sufficient room for people to walk by. Okay, that's all I wanted.
And actually, we've decided to extend our Friday and Saturday hours until midnight since I turned this in. So it would be till midnight, although I don't know that
No, that'll
anyone
be
would
okay.
want to sit
Yeah.
outside at midnight, but.
I think most of them have kind of looked at an 11 o'clock. We've been kind of consistent with 11,
Okay.
but that's a decision that you folks have to make.
Well, I think part of that is we do have residents that live downtown, and that's why we've tried to limit it to 11. One thing I would ask, and I see a few of them, and I think it's more the patrons than it is the business owners, where the rope's getting pushed out to the edge. I've seen one not too long ago where they were having a beanbag deal, and it was all the way out the edge of the sidewalk, just to try to get people to try to police it yourself for a little bit and try to be respectful for everybody else. And like I say, I don't think it was proprietors. I think it was more the patrons that did it. So
And
Tim, you look like you had a quizzical look on your face.
Well, we can do 11.
Yeah, it's easier to police that way. I
We
mean,
can- We can haul the tables in at 11. And the people with them.
Sounds good.
Very good
11
idea.
o'clock. We'll stick with 11 then. We all okay with that? Any other questions for Christine?
Thanks, Christine.
All right. If no more questions, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank
Mayor,
you for
Mayor,
being
can we
here.
come back to the topic just for a second? The one thing I have noticed, I think our standards for what we use for the barrier separation and the cleanliness outside is way too low. The sidewalks look terrible. They get stuff spilt all over them. The sidewalks aren't washed. There's cigarette butts all over. We use a rope. It looks like heck. If we're going to have this, I would just as soon that we reestablish a higher standard for what we are defining as the barrier than a stick with a rope on it that can be pushed all over the place.
I saw one that looked like police
It
tape.
looks terrible, and I don't think that's what our intention is to have downtown.
Well, I agree, and I think that like for this particular business and some others I can think of in town, I absolutely have no doubt that they'll be nice, and we do have some that exist that are very nice, and we do have some that have used industrial materials to create their barriers and things like that. So I agree with Mike that it would be nice to at least have some minimum standard as to what constitutes material for a barrier. You know, those kinds of things would really help a lot. And it would help the people applying for these cafes. And I like the idea of having sidewalk cafes, but I'd also like them to look really nice, so.
Would that be something for building services, just to kind of come up with some guidelines?
So you won't have like crime scene tape across there?
Only on Halloween, right?
Little spray paint on the ground of that guy laying there. Tim can help you out with that. Yeah. Okay, Tim? Thanks, Christine. We'll look forward to seeing that. I think it'll be very nice. Congratulations on John, on your new restaurant down there. I think it's great. It's going well. Thank you.
Just so I can, Christine, the days are the same though, staying at 11? Okay, because you didn't have a change in any of that.
Actually, right now, we're only open Wednesday through Saturday, but I put Tuesday on there to cover us in case we decided to do Tuesday. So.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. No, you got to stay for the next 3 or 4 since you've stayed this long. No, it's okay. Yeah, yeah. Number 12, authorization for the mayor to sign a grant application for the airport runway project. Todd, you're here. Give us a little update on this.
Yes, the feds called us last week, a couple of weeks ago actually, gave us an inkling that we get approved for a grant if we got it in by July 1st. So we're just trying to get this moving for the runway project next year.
Perfect. So what I'll do, Todd, is I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion on this.
So moved.
Motion by Randy, second by Don. Have you got questions for Todd on this runway project? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Todd. Number 13, authorization for the airport to advertise for bids for the runway project. What I will do is I will look for a motion, a second for discussion on this. Motion by Beth, second by Mike. And Todd, go ahead and fill us in on this one, then we'll look for questions.
Yep. So we're going to, if you guys approve this, we're going to go out for bids probably later this week. We're going to give them ample amount of time to bid. We're going to close the bids, I believe, the last day of June, so we can review the bids before July 1st. I'm sorry, we're going to close the bids a week before the end of June, so we have time to open the bids and review them and get it back to the feds.
Perfect. Any questions on that? Or should we have him repeat it?
No, it probably pertains, how's this going to affect the new airline when we start doing that? Because it didn't seem like the last time was that one of the issues or excuses why flights were canceled and so on?
Correct. And right, so the last runway we did was our primary runway. Our runway 1735 is our instrument landing system, and they definitely need that one. This one's our secondary runway. going east to west, and it's not critical.
Okay, so I look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Todd, can you just give us, I know it's just a little update on what's going on, what's transpired with our new Essential Air Service?
Yeah, we got the contract awarded, I believe, last Friday from the DOT. So ADI is the new airline for Watertown and Pier. They will be starting August 1st. I do have a meeting with them tomorrow at 12:30, a conference call. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to try and meet up face-to-face with them. We're going to work through marketing and ticket prices and start dates, all that fun stuff.
I get asked the question quite often, when will we be able to start booking flights?
That's what I will figure out tomorrow. We're hoping as soon as possible to get it online, so we have at least a month and a half of ticket sales before that first flight.
But the contract itself actually for the EAS starts August 1st.
Correct. So if they don't start flying August 1st, they won't get paid. So that's how that works.
Todd, have they started any staff searching at this point in time for
that is
like support staff, that kind of thing?
Right. That is what we're going to go over tomorrow. They're going to ask for a recommendation for staffing.
When will TSA start coming back in and get set up?
They're already training currently, and they're hiring 3 people at the moment, 3 males for Watertown, and they will have them fully trained by August 1. I was in contact with TSA last Thursday, Friday.
Very nice. Any other questions on the airline?
Do they still have all their inter-airline agreements that they talked about to begin with? I heard rumor on the street that
That's an
some of those
interesting
don't
question,
exist.
Randy. They were working with Silver Airlines, I believe was the name of it, and for some unknown reason, ADI decided to bid against Silver Airlines. Silver Airlines kind of got a little bit ticked off on it, decided to pull that out for their ticketing. So what ADI did is they actually went in turn and talked to Great Lakes Aviation. They can still use their ticketing process through Great Lakes. So when you go to Expedia or to a travel agent or anything, they'll go to ADI, but when it's printed, it'll come through as Great Lakes Airlines and ADI together on that.
Operated by ADI, correct?
Yes. So it's really, Great Lakes has absolutely nothing to do with ADI. I want to reiterate that. They have nothing to do with ADI except for the ticketing agent. And the ticketing process was not our problem. We could get tickets all the time. They wouldn't fly in.
Right.
So we'll be good as gold. And they're still working on it. They're still working on their own
Reservation.
ticketing. Yeah.
Yep.
But we will still have connectivity like they had said with the larger airlines, correct?
That is a question I'm going to ask tomorrow.
I mean, that was a big
but
deal
as
on-
far as I understand, Great Lakes does have a good interline agreement system set up in place.
Because that's what we were told, the 3 majors that they were going to
Correct.
have connected. Yeah.
And Great Lakes does have the interline agreements with the 3 majors.
Now, I was told we would be able to check our baggage here and not have to touch it again.
That's still the same. if
That's
they
still
have
the same.
Yes.
Okay, that's what.
Yes. I don't know how much of this system they're going to turn on for ADI right away. I'm guessing that they would turn on United all the way. They might hold back on Delta as far as the code share portion of it, where you can go to Delta's website or all of that stuff. Due to the fact that there's not a whole lot of Delta presence in Denver, but United would be huge for us.
Well, it's exciting. I want to thank you for all the work you've done on that, and then we'll know more tomorrow and keep us informed, if you will. Okay, so we're good to go. We have to start now on number 14, consideration of airport bids. The bids received for the heat, electrical, and insulation work for the airport shop building. If you remember right, this is the building that you got from Worthington?
Dakota Tube.
Dakota Tube, I'm sorry, Dakota Tube. That building was moved over, and now you just need to go out. You're looking for bids, and you received those bids, am I correct?
That's correct.
So why don't you go ahead and show it to us, and then we'll go further on that.
Sure. I did them 2 separate bids due to the fact that we ran into the $50,000 bid law We found out later after the fact that we should go out for bid for this, so we did. So I bid this in 2 separate bid columns. The heat, electrical, and insulation on the first bid. So I guess if you don't want to make a decision on that one first.
No,
Ken?
we will.
Okay,
you
and
go
then
ahead
go
and
down
explain
to the next one, please. And then the second bid is the concrete vestibule and excavation work. And then we also got an alternate bid because I wasn't sure on how the utilities and everything worked out there. So we got an alternate bid on the connecting the floor drain to the manhole. We did find a manhole. We worked through with utilities and the other departments, and we came up with this alternate bid for the contractors to bid on.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, Todd, is I will go ahead and get a motion and a second for discussion on your first bid for the heat, electrical, and insulation work. And then you'll give us your recommendation which one to go with.
Sure.
So I've got a bid, or okay, I have a bid. Dan and Bruce? Okay, so we got Dan and Bruce on that. And what is your recommendation to us here, Tom?
The recommendation, I did go through all 3 contractors. There was quite a bit of price difference, so I did spend a lot of time on this. But Neal Construction did meet all of our standards, so I would recommend Neal Construction.
Any questions, you guys?
Was there any engineer's estimates on any of this, or too small a project, or?
Too small.
It's like that, so.
Okay, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And then we'll go to the second one. I'm gonna look for a motion and a second for discussion on that. Motion by John, second by Brad. And then if you'll give us your recommendation on these bids here.
Sure. I did the same as well for these. There was a bit of a price difference, so I did go through all 3 bids very thoroughly, and Neal Construction did meet the specs that we had planned for this, including the alternate. So I would recommend Neal Construction.
With alternate.
With the alternate.
Any questions on that, you guys?
This is just for a drain? There's no bathroom or anything in part of this then, or?
Correct, just a floor drain. What we're going to do is we're going to tie the 2 buildings together with the vestibule, so we can use the bathroom that we originally have in the other shop. Keeps the price down.
Todd, will this be all the work that needs to be done on this building then? So when we get done with these 2, plus the purchase of the building and the moving of the building, that's our total cost? Or is there going to be additional things that are be coming our way related to this building?
No. As far as the building construction, getting it to final stage, this will do it.
Okay,
now, if we're going to add hose reels, if we're going to add, other stuff inside the building,
Right, that'd
that's
be
covered by
separate
equipment.
issue, right.
That's equipment maintenance and
FF&E,
building
yeah.
maintenance.
We already approved the concrete work and stuff before, hadn't we?
We didn't. You guys will have to approve all this. We just approved the moving of the building and the foundation footings.
That's
So
perfect.
this is what I maybe
Yeah,
Shelley
just
can
had to
speak
finish
on
this up. So we have the buildings there and everything is
Correct.
good to go. We just need to get the concrete work done now on the footings, of course, were all in place and everything. This is the flooring.
Correct.
Did this all fit into then, when it's all said and done? I think we talked, and I don't recall what the number is, we felt the gross number was to buy it, move it, get it through this point. Does this all fall within what we talked about?
No.
Is it lower?
No, it's not.
I was hoping it was lower, but, okay, so how much more are we talking about than what we had talked in the previous meetings?
It was $77,000 total is what we had. So I believe we're at 36,000, and then the other one was roughly 30. So you're at 66,000 for this. We're about 35,000 over.
And we took that from where?
Go ahead and explain the first part of it, where the first dollars came from.
The first dollars
The
came from the
75.
sale of the
Oh, yeah.
of the Airco 2 building. So the 77,000 is basically free. So we'd be spending another, let's say, 40,000 to complete this building.
40?
Roughly 40, 60. Yeah.
Yeah.
14,000 to buy it, 19,000 to move it, and Yeah, we were at 49,000 plus 60. Yeah, it's roughly 40,000 more.
Okay, so as we approve this tonight, do we need to designate where those additional funds are coming from? Or you got that covered, Shelley? Or
Well,
Ty-
if you want to designate it somewhere other than getting an additional transfer from the second penny, because the second penny sales tax is what covers the CIP portion of the airport, and anything that's over and above what you approved in 2016, which this would be, I would just, at the end of the year, ask for a supplement transfer from the second penny. So unless you want it to come from somewhere different, that's the route I would take.
It's 36,000 total, more.
Do the math for me again. I was just trying to figure this out. You had 14 for the bill.
49 plus 60.
Well, let's go back. Let's start from the beginning. 14, you said 14.
14
and
to move it,
18.
19 to
I'm trying to get my, okay. So if I got
14 to buy the building.
14
14 to buy the building.
and 19
19 to move it.
and 29
Yep.
and 35.
And 35, and then the footings and foundations. The building price, the moving of the building,
Okay,
and
so
the
we got into
footings
that.
equaled $49,000. So I took 49,000 plus 35,000
Okay,
plus
okay.
30,000.
I'm picking it up there. Very good.
Sorry.
Any other questions? It'd be a nice building once we're done, right?
It will be beautiful.
Yeah, it'll be very nice.
Yeah, and we
That's-
didn't have it. We didn't have the extra budgeted for it, and I would have spent the 77,000, and we'd have been okay. The hitch was the $50,000 bid law, and since we have to go out for bids anyways, that's why I did this in two separate bids.
Right.
Okay, so I can have the concrete, the vestibule, and the excavation done, and you guys don't have to put any money into the airport. As far as the 77,000 will cover all that. Now, with the heat and the electrical, since we're going out for bids, I just figured that we'd get a separate bid for that.
Right.
Todd, didn't you have some stuff set aside in long-term CIP for?
Yes.
What, and what was that amount?
$1 million.
Okay, that's gonna take care of a lot of that.
Yes.
And is this going to house the airplane for ADI? Is that what your thought is?
No.
No.
This is for our snow equipment, for the stone hanger. Our stone hanger's a cold storage. The floor's pretty beat up in it. It's gonna cost a lot of money, and it's under the historical site, I believe, so.
Now, what's ever gonna happen to that?
All right, let's move on here, and I'm going to look for council action on that. Am I right? We don't have, okay, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Mayor, should we designate the funds to come out of the, Shelley, how you want to do that? We just approved
Is
something
that
that we don't have
automatic,
funding for.
unless we say otherwise? Is that?
Yeah, you'll
At the
come
end of
back
the
and
year, I'll ask for an additional transfer supplement, but it's going to come from the second penny.
Right.
Unless right now you guys want to say something
Okay,
different.
But it doesn't need to be, we can leave that alone as far as these two motions and approvals.
Right,
And it'll
right.
just automatically come as a supplement.
No, come at the end of the year
Right.
when we do our ordinance.
When you do the
Supplemental
supplemental.
ordinance, yep,
Right.
that's when it'll
Okay.
come.
Shelley, what would our options be outside of that if we wanted to do something different tonight?
You could have it come from the contingency fund, you could have it come from the general fund.
From your expertise, what would be the best route for us to go?
To be consistent, I would take it from the second penny sales tax, since that's kind of what covers all the capital costs. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. 14C, Strong Town Engagement Agreement. What I'm looking for here is that we bring Strong Town to the council meeting on June the 20th. They're going to be here for the work session. And what they need, this is all about the charrette that was happened. Isn't that correct, Beth? And then these folks here will talk about the two-way streets and what we would expect.
Yeah, it actually is a little bit broader in scope in that he goes around and talks about the principles of renovating or revitalizing urban or downtown areas, things like that. And yes, this did come up from the charrette in the sense that he was a participant in it. We Skyped him in, and it was amazing insight, and we really felt that it would be beneficial for the entire council to hear that, because it talked about development, it talked about just good practices that cities should adopt to have a good, strong, solid downtown. Don't you think,
And
Randy?
it's kind of a next step onto the, it kind of gives us direction in the next step of all the information that we've got from the charrette, and kind of a good starting point. When we Skyped him in, I mean, it was very, 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 very interesting, and I think it's going to be very instrumental in how we move forward with this project, so.
Right. What I would look for, guys, is a motion and a second. I think in the motion, I'd like to see where the dollars are going to come from. My understanding is we can use the urban renewal dollars for this, since it is an uptown project. I would like that motion.
I would make that motion to bring in Strong Towns with the funds coming from the urban renewal.
Okay, so I have a motion by Randy. Second by Beth. Now, is there any other questions on this?
Is it our intention that this gentleman will be here for our work session?
That is correct.
We're paying him, what, $2,500 to come here, correct? And plus his expenses. But now we're going to limit ourselves to about an hour to an hour and a half. It
It will be an hour
almost
and a half.
seems like we,
The problem we ran into, Mike, is that the 20th was the only day he could come. I actually had another gentleman that is, to Market Watertown in that hour and a half slate. So I had to move that person into the council agenda. So it doesn't matter to me which way you want it. If you want to have, maybe we want to start earlier or something.
that's what I said, I think that to go to
Does it
either
need
the
it?
same day or the same time frame would be, if we're going to get him here, let's use the heck out of him, right? And we don't know how many people we're going to have here that are going to want to listen and ask questions. I think we need to probably, if that's the case, Steve, schedule-wise, then we got to move it, the start up earlier if at all possible, I think.
Do you think another hour would be suffice if we started at, say, 4:30?
Yeah, 4:30 or 5 at the latest. I agree. I mean, I had even talked about possibility of bringing him in on another day just to be able to have enough time, but this seems to be a good time in the sense that we don't have to try to make another meeting and things like that for ourselves. But, yeah, if we're going to get him here, I'd like to have us utilize him for the longest period of time that we can. I anticipate a full gallery, and I would expect that there would be a lot of questions. So I obviously would go along with however long you guys would want him here. I think Randy would agree that he could probably help us for 6 hours if we wanted, but anyway.
Now, with his fee, he don't designate an amount of time.
No, this
He
is,
does.
the get him here and talk, and I asked them too, is it amount of time or is it limited to the number of people? And the answer to both was no. So we might as well get our money's worth, I guess, is what I'm saying.
And
I'd
the
like
thing about having it during the work session is that we are all here. To get a
Right.
time that we can basically all be here to listen to, their presentation, it's hard to do.
One of the things is I talked to Nancy and Sarah today about this. One of the things I mentioned, if we're expecting a ton of people, we could start at 4 o'clock and be done by 6:30 and have it probably out to the event center. With all the seating, it seats up to 300 people.
Mhm.
You really have a big group out there. I don't know and then come back here. Or we could hold our council meeting out there that evening.
Yeah,
Doesn't
we could
matter.
just, that was an original thought that I had expressed to Steve too, is let's take advantage of him and the people who will come and take one of the biggest, what a big venue would be that we could use. I'd be okay with the Heritage Center and start early.
Ray, you can get it on video out there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Everybody okay with that? I think it's a good idea.
From our prior discussion, are we expecting to have this survey taken care of by then, or?
I don't know if 2 weeks is quick. Is that too quick?
The survey part of it, yes. I was going to make the recommendation, if we're going to have him here the entire day, would it be beneficial, and we're encouraging downtown business owners to be involved, to see if Harry's or somebody like that would maybe host lunch and have that time for downtown business owners, so they have 2 opportunities if they can't come at 4 o'clock because of staffing. maybe he would do a presentation at noon and we could try to get those folks there. Just Dutch treat, come by your lunch and listen to him then.
Do we know if he can come that early? I think he was anticipating late, but we could, doesn't hurt to ask.
I think you could talk to him and get him here.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be here. I
Okay,
like
we'd
that.
be happy to coordinate that, but sometimes with
Yeah.
those, if they're a single proprietor in their business, it's tough for them to get away one time or the other. So if we offer a couple options, then
That's a good
maybe we
idea.
could get more people
Because,
involved.
yeah, he does seminars to many, many, many cities, large and small. So I think
Right.
it would be very good. So let's shoot for that. What do you guys say, okay?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay. 4 o'clock, out to the event center, and we'll just carry through with our council agenda out there.
So,
Okay.
so then it would be the expectation the survey would come after this then?
I think
Okay.
that would be the best, because I think people would be very well educated by then, and then they could form their opinion one way or the other. So do you want me to follow up with everybody about what time he would be here in town, or?
Yeah, find out, make sure he can be here. I don't, yeah, as long as we got him here at 4 o'clock at the event center, I'm good. So what I would look for is council action on this. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're gonna go with it, gonna happen like that, and then if you find something different, let us know, and we'll get it changed. Whatever, yeah. Okay. Number 15, consideration of bids received for the South Broadway Bridge Rehab Project. Shane, that's yours, I believe.
All right, Ray, can you put my screen on? Thank you. On May 26th, city opened bids for this project. This is not a total bridge reconstruction project anymore. That was on the original DOT schedule to be a complete replacement, but it's been downsized to a rehabilitation, which means that they'll take off the deck pieces and rebuild a new deck over the existing abutments and piers. So we're just replacing the upper portion of the bridge at this point. And with that, the 4 bids, the low bid was submitted by Knowles Dragline and Construction of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The amount of their bid was $398,914.90. This was approximately 8% above the engineer's estimate, which was $368,900. Just to give you an idea what the other bid ranges were, the second bid was $417,000, and with a high bid of $521,000. So there's a nice little grouping of bids, all of them slightly above the engineer's estimate, which wasn't completely unexpected because typically we're bidding a whole bridge, not a rehabilitation, so that skewed the estimate just a little bit. But anyway, we discussed it with all the partners. GLE is on board with this project going forward at this current bid price, and the engineer recommended award as well. So with that, staff also recommends award to Knowles Dragline and Construction Inc.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll look for a motion and a second for any more discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Glenn, second by Bruce. Any other questions that we have for Shane on this? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried, and that was for the low bid for that. What did you call the name? Newell?
Knowles
Knoll.
Dragline and Construction
Okay.
Incorporated.
All right. Thank you, Shane. Any old business that you need to discuss? Hearing none, I will move on to new business. I do have something here I'd like to read. This came from the Government Finance Officers Association out of Chicago, Illinois. It was addressed to the Honorable Steve Thorson. Dear Mayor Thorson, I am pleased to notify you that City of Watertown, South Dakota has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the current budget from the Government Finance Officers Association, and they use the acronyms GFOA. This award is the highest form of recognition in governmental budgeting and represents a significant achievement by your organization. When a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award is granted to an entity, a certificate of recognition for budget presentation is also presented to the individual or department designated as being primarily responsible for its having achieved this award. This has been presented to the Finance Office with Shelley Evers. We hope you will arrange for a formal presentation. Shelley, I wish I had the award in my hand, but congratulations on getting that. It's wonderful to get this recognition for your office.
Well, if anybody says that we are not all for open government, see, the awards as you walk into City Hall will tell you that we're all about open government, and what I know, you guys know. So there's two really great documents that everybody should read.
Thanks, Shelley. Let me see if I got anything else in my little packet here that I need to get out here right away.
I got a couple items, Mayor,
Okay,
if they'll fit in right now.
go
One
ahead.
of my constituents, Don Meyer, was concerned about the flowers on 81 and kind of was looking for an update on what's going on with the flowers.
Is that the Don Meyer from Sharp Chevrolet?
That is the Don Meyer, yes.
Okay,
indeed.
I just wasn't sure. You said Don?
Meyer, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, Don, let me just kind of let you know what's going on. We had some issues with the rototilling of the flower beds, I guess you would call it. It didn't really turn out the way they wanted it, so they went through and rototilled again. Still didn't turn out exactly the way they wanted, so they decided to plant the flowers, and as they were going through, they would pull the weeds out with the volunteers. There wasn't enough volunteers over the weekend to get it done, so I believe it's this week, Cornerstone Church and the City of Watertown will be planting the rest of the flowers. So Don, rest assured, they will get planted. We
Thank
love
you, Mayor.
flowers.
And that's good, because I was a greeter at church on Sunday, and you do not know how many people wanted to know how their flowers were going to be on 81.
Yeah, some people thought I didn't like flowers like Mike doesn't like otters and stuff. I like flowers, and you like otters. Okay, so we're good with that.
I do have one other question, Mayor,
Okay.
on a more serious note. Not that those flowers aren't serious.
Pretty darn serious.
Because they are. But that is the sign ordinance. My understanding, I had a conversation with Luke from First District, and he said that they believe they've got an ordinance penned. When are we gonna move along with this process? When are we gonna get a meeting together so that we
Right.
can review that?
And I might just explain, at that particular time, Tim Lallam was actually handling the sign ordinance for us, along with First District. As you remember, Tim left our office, it kind of left us hanging on a number of different areas. But at this particular time, there is a new gentleman hired for that position. He just started today. I would assume that First District, Luke and Todd will be in here just shortly, the next couple of weeks, and we'll get that wrapped up. We got to get something done.
Yes, thank you.
And just so you also know, I believe it is it Wednesday, Thursday, we're having a meeting. Wednesday, we're having a meeting on the ordinance for parking RVs and things at the lake, just so people understand that is also in the works, and we'll be working on that. The really hard part of the parking things at the lake is that the front yard is the backyard, and the backyard's the front yard. So what you're seeing is backyard when you drive around the lake. So it is difficult, but that is going to be worked on extremely hard here in this next couple weeks.
Mayor, something else regarding the lake. It just wasn't clear. I think it was clear, but people forgot or something. And I had a few comments about all the garbage cans that were put out Tuesday night, thinking they were going to be picked up on Wednesday, and even though they'd been picked up the previous Friday. So I don't know how we remind people the
Yeah.
next time we have that, because out at the lake it was, and then of course it had to blow 50 miles an hour every day, and so the garbage cans tipped over, and we kind of have a mess out there because people just didn't remember, or
Right.
the fact that it was supposed to have been Wednesday, and they thought it was Wednesday pickup.
Used to be Wednesday, now
And now
it's
it's
the Friday before.
And so just as a reminder, I don't know if we do
Yeah.
anything.
Well,
but-
what we did, just so you have an idea, we did put flyers in every utility bill. It was told, to be prepared for this. On the 4th of July, it's going to be coming up also. So on the 4th, which is a Monday, they have to have their garbage out on Friday. It does create 2 additional days of worth of garbage, so they have to be aware of that. So their garbage will be picked up on Friday, and it will not be picked up until the following Monday, a week from the 4th of July, so it'd be the 11th. So there will be, actually what's happening is that there's 11 days of garbage in the garbage can versus 9 days in the garbage can. So it's 2 additional days.
That's a
And
good
that
one.
was in the southwest part of town also. It was pretty adamant that people didn't really pick up on that Friday before.
Mayor, I've got one issue. I brought it up when the golf season opened here this spring, but now I had somebody that lives along South Lake Drive bring it to my attention. That's golf carts out there. The specific issue last week was a couple kids racing golf carts along South Lake Drive, and that was the concern that I expressed a couple months ago out at Summerwood around the golf course along South Lake Drive. We got a lot of small kids operating these golf carts that don't respect the traffic rules out there, and somebody is going to get hurt or killed out there eventually.
I would relay this to Tim. Maybe you can tell us how old are you supposed to be to drive those golf carts on the highway? And
Yep, it's 16, and you have to have a driver's license. So it's similar to the motorcycle or moped, anything under 49 cc's ordinance. And we are aware of those complaints and are actively patrolling and looking for those violations. So.
I don't really think that's the only part of town. I mean, I think every part of town has an issue with somebody driving some type of vehicle. I mean, I see a couple kids that live right down the street from me
Golf
that are
carts
about.
have to be a direct route from home to the golf course and back. It's not a recreational vehicle to be going up, picking up groceries or anything like that. So.
Yeah, like I'm seeing kids 10, 12 years old operate these golf carts out there, and that really concerns me. They just have no concept of the traffic rules out there. I mean, I've had to stop and swerve and let them go by any number of times in the couple years that I've lived out there.
I would encourage anybody who sees that, just give us a call and we'll go right out and address it.
you guys could probably put something on the radio or in the newspaper to kind of remind folks of the ordinance on golf carts. You know, I think that happened, about 3 years ago? We set that up, 3-4 years. So I would say that
Well,
it's
not
time
only
for a
golf,
refresh.
not only golf carts, but I mean, like I say,
Oh, yeah.
I've seen some kids that are 4 or 5 years old riding an electric motorcycle up and down the street. So,
Wow.
you know, so it's all over. We just need to.
That's not your kid, is it, Brad? Okay.
Mayor, while we have Tim up there, this would probably have it under
He's
old
pedaling
business.
down the middle of the street.
Probably under old business, but there really has, I know we put a lot of time and a lot of work into the city proper parking issue last year. And we said last year was gonna, or kind of be our grace period. I think we're still in grace period mode, it feels like, from what I'm seeing. Because some of these places are there for extended periods of time, and there's no doubt in my mind that we're seeing those. I mean, some of them are not too far from right downtown, where it's on one of our main streets, but there's a number of them. I think we just need to remind everybody that it's still in. Now we're going for it, and we have to start ticketing them. If we're going to have the ordinance, we need to do the work to enforce it. And I hope that we pick that up. It is noticeably better, in my opinion, than what it has been, but I do believe there are enough occurrences where I think we need to just take the time and write the ticket. So
I'd agree, Mike, because the people that now have actually done what they needed to do and watch somebody else that doesn't do it, and we don't do anything about it, I think, time is to start dealing with it.
Yeah, I think we're ready for that now.
And we are.
Yeah.
Chris Christensen, our animal control guy / parking ordinance, he's the busiest guy on our department, and he is 100% out there looking for the on-street violations and addressing them accordingly. And you will see, I could provide you the statistics if you want, but
Like,
Chris Christensen, yep.
like, do you have regular officers that'll
Yep.
report to him also and say, hey, we've got this problem here,
Either
you
that
know,
or
so
they'll
he
write
don't
the
need to
ticket
just be
themselves.
looking all by himself.
Right, no, but he's pretty good. He's a one-man army, but our officers also help out with the parking.
Yeah,
ordinance,
I get calls every now and then that people are upset that they're getting tickets, but, that's just the way it is.
And typically, he contacts them, gives them, he gives them a copy of the ordinance and educates them, and then, there is a warning initially, and if it's not corrected immediately, then a ticket would be followed up.
Yeah.
So.
And Tim, I would like to also just make people aware, you know, we are cracking down on any kind of drug use in town, rather looking for the big kingpin or whatever. We're going after whatever is out there, just so people understand. We're going to be kind of hard on them around here.
We need it.
So when we're stopping cars, be aware that you might be asked a couple of weird questions or anything like that. It's going to happen.
Just to put that in a little context, our controlled substance arrests have doubled since last year, over the last couple of years, right? And we're on pace to match or at least surpass that for next year. So methamphetamines is a pending problem. It is a problem. There's no doubt about it. There's no putting our heads in the sand for that.
Exactly. You guys got any questions on that? Because I mean, it's a big subject for Watertown.
It is.
Anything else?
Mayor, that being said, should there be some focus, should there be some effort to look into this from this body moving forward? Is there anything that we can do?
No, I think they've got every tool they could possibly need. In fact, they've got other tools that they're working on right now with the state. I really don't want to get into detail on that, but it'll be a very positive thing for South Dakota if it does go through.
And one thing, we are revamping, or HSA has gotten a grant for an anti-meth campaign. So you're going to see a lot more in the media and a lot more education side of it. So it's going to be proactive and preventative as well as reactive.
I've asked that question myself to both Tim and Lee personally, you know, and are you getting everything you need from City Hall, you know, and yeah,
Yep.
They are. And just, unfortunately, it is a very devastating thing. It's not only us that's dealing with it, it's basically nationwide, so.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. I would like to mention, it's kind of new business. Glenn held a meeting with us last week between the zoo and the city and just kind of working things out and see how everything works between the two. I don't know if you want to elaborate on it a little bit, Glenn. I thought it went extremely well.
I was very pleased too. It was Shelley, the mayor, Mike, you sat in on that, and Jada Lang, Will Morlock, Dan Miller, and Dale Christensen from the Zoo Society. Just really had a good discussion. I think it was probably the first time that everybody got around the same table and kind of hashed out some financial arrangements between the two entities. And I think going forward and starting in 2017, we'll see a little bit different arrangement between the city and the Zoo Society. But I was very pleased with the way things went.
Yeah, it was very good. Thank you. Any liaison member reports?
I've got one quick one from the Utilities Board. Flint, Michigan, water's been in the news a lot since the Flint, Michigan issue arose a couple of months ago. And just so you know, the EPA's 2015 review of our drinking water, we got a clean, no pun intended, report from the EPA on our drinking water in Watertown.
You talk about no pun intended. I had a lady call me from the lake, and she says, "Our garbage stinks out here." Pun intended. Yeah, that's what she said. I thought it was kind of funny. Any other member reports? Need to go into executive session? I do need to go into executive session. I would for contract negotiations. I do expect that there will be some action taken at this time, so I will look for a motion in a second. Motion by, was it Randy? And second by Bruce. John. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We are in executive